To get started, I have salted and peppered 4 pounds of beef roast meat. This is top round roast, and I've used 3 teaspoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of cracked black pepper. And the meat I normally use for a pot roast or beef stew is actually beef chuck shoulder roast. That's actually my go-to braising stewing meat. You could also use a cut of brisket. That's also another meat that you could use to braise. But today I decided to go with the top round roast. I just like the way the cut look. I thought maybe it might make a neat little slice for a thumbnail. We'll see how it goes, but I can see that it does have less marbling than a chuck shoulder roast. Anyways, here I am preheating my Dutch oven, and I'm adding the last of my oil. It's a couple tablespoons of oil. And you want to make sure you get the pan nice and hot. Now, I don't usually do this part on a high heat because I don't like to burn the fond, but a medium high, somewhere between medium high and a little high, because you do want to get golden brown coloring on the exterior of your meat. So here I'm placing my meat in my Dutch oven, and I'm just going to brown it on all sides. This process will take some time, so I would say somewhere around 15 minutes, or again, until you brown the meat on all sides. Okay, so now that my meat is browned on all sides, I'm going to remove it from the pan, and as you can see, all of that golden brown fond is at the bottom of the pan. So now I'm going to add 1 medium onion, 2 medium carrots, and 1 stick of celery, all sliced and chopped. And I'm just going to scrape any fond at the bottom of the pan and saute these vegetables. Okay, so it has been several minutes. The onions are translucent and things have sauteed nicely. So now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to combine all of the veggies in the pan with the flour and cook out the flour to get rid of the raw flour taste. And this is going to help thicken any beef juices and broth that I add to my pot when braising. And before I forget, I noticed I didn't add my garlic. So I'm adding 2 mashed cloves of garlic into the pot, skin and all. And I'm just going to let that warm through and cook as best I can. You probably want to add that when you add the carrots and onion and celery, but you know, it happens. So now that the flour's cooked out, I am going to be adding 3 cups of beef broth. This is just a store-bought beef broth, like in a carton, and I'm using 3 cups. At first, I'm going to only add like 1 cup and work out the flour and combine it with the broth, just to work out any clumps and lumps from the cooked out flour. Okay, I have added the rest of the beef broth. Again, that was 3 whole cups of beef broth. And the next ingredient is optional. Next, I'm going to be adding 1 cup of red wine. Now, if you do not want to add red wine or you do not have it, then just add an extra cup of beef broth. Ultimately, if you don't want to use the wine, just add 4 cups of beef broth. Now I'm adding 3 sprigs of fresh thyme. And I'm also going to be adding 1 dried bay leaf. And now all I'm going to add is my meat back into the pot. And when I add the meat to the pot, you'll notice that the liquid is not covering the meat. The meat is not submerged in the liquid, and you don't want it to be. So I think the rule is the liquid should come up 1 inch on the sides of the meat. I can't tell you how many inches this is. I didn't measure it, but you just don't want to dunk it all the way in and have it submerged in the braising liquid. So I'm going to bring this up to a gentle simmer. And once I bring it up to a gentle simmer, just like this, I am going to cover it with a lid, and I'm going to let this cook for around 2.5 hours. And again, I'm cooking the meat on a gentle simmer, covered for 2.5 hours. And after that 2.5 hours, your meat is not done by any means. This is going to take some time, but I am going to remove the meat. I'm going to set it off to the side, and then I'm going to strain my braising liquid and press all the aromatics through a sieve the best I can. But basically, I'm straining this liquid, and then I'm going to replace it back into the pot. By the way, I'd like to mention that this video is in collaboration with another YouTuber. Now, I typically don't like to do collaborations, but I guess since she's my cousin, it's okay. So please go check out Daily Dash of Life for her version of her crockpot pot roast recipe for those of you interested in making a recipe or a pot roast in a crock pot. She also does a lot of other recipes, life hacks, and showcases her daily life. So please go show her some love, subscribe, like, share some of her wonderful videos. Okay, all of my strained braising liquid is back into my pot. And by the way, the leftover carrots and celery and onion, you could actually blend these or puree these and add it to your braising liquid, but we like to eat them, so you do what you will. So here is my sieved, strained braising liquid. And now I am going to add some potatoes and carrots. Today I'm using 2 pounds of golden Yukon potatoes, and these are the smaller ones, and I'm also using a bunch of carrots. These are just thinly peeled carrots. I've cleaned the tops, left some of the green tops just for looks. And I'm basically going to put my meat back into the pot and then add the potatoes and carrots for the last hour of braising time. I also would like to mention that you do not have to use this type of potato or carrot. Baby carrots or large carrots cut into chunks, russet potatoes, or even larger golden Yukons cut in half or quarters. You just use what you have or find convenient. But I saw these bags of potatoes and bunches of carrots, and I thought I'm going with it today. So once everything's back in the pan, I'm going to bring it to a gentle simmer, cover with a lid, and cook it for 1 more hour or until the meat and veggies are knife tender. Not fork tender, because if the potatoes are fork tender, they will mush and disintegrate, and so will the carrots. So this time you want to use your knife. Okay, so it has been a little over an hour and my meat is ready. So at this point, I am going to remove this meat once again. I'm going to remove it and cover it with aluminum foil and allow it to rest for at least 15 to 20 minutes. So once I remove it, I'm also going to scoop up all my potatoes and carrots because those are done, and I'm going to just put those in a dish, and then I'm going to reduce my braising liquid. I'm going to reduce it probably by half, maybe not quite half, but reducing it by half is a good way to go. And that's just going to allow it to have a little more body and thickness to it. Again, this is not a super thick sauce. It's not a gravy. It's more of a sauce. And the flavors are just going to intensify with all the aromatics and the wine and beef broth that went in there. And a little bit of this will go a long way when plating. So again, I'm just going to remove everything and reduce the braising liquid. It'll probably take around 20 minutes to do so. Once my liquid has reduced by half, and I want to show you, I'm going to just kind of move it around. As you can see, this is not a thick gravy. It has reduced and it has thickened a little bit, but I like this consistency. So now I am ready to cut my meat. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to cut this. This meat is falling apart and it's very tender, but I do notice, again, with a chuck roast, the chuck shoulder roast, it has more marbling, therefore it retains more moisture, and this cut of meat is very lean. So I'm going to cut it and put it right back into my sauce. And once I cut all of the meat, I'm going to plate. And I want to show you how fork tender this is. Again, this is not as juicy as I notice when I cook a chuck shoulder roast, but I did try it and it's very tender. It's very good and it's flavorful. Okay, so my roast is all sliced back in the pot and I'm ready to serve. So I just served it with potatoes and carrots. It goes great with the side salad and some crusty garlic herb bread or some fluffy soft dinner rolls. I will leave the recipe for that at the end of this video. Ultimately, I hope you guys give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.